How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. If you're looking for some good Halloween games to play this Halloween season, you are absolutely covered with new stuff to play between Silent Hill F, Dying Light the Beast, and Tormented Souls 2. They all cover different flavors of the genre as well. So this is one of the best survival horror / horror game in general years I've experienced in a very long time, but let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. In today's video, we have 3 topics to cover, starting out with Sony coming up with a new scheme to get people to buy PlayStation 5s that'll give you a little bit of money back for your purchase. After that, let's talk about how it's time to lock in 2027 as the year of new PlayStation hardware. And finally, one of the PS5's best looking games graphically just got its low power mode handheld update, and we'll talk about what it actually does. Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Kaku Ancient Seal. If you've been looking for a Zelda-like you can sink your teeth into on the PlayStation 5, this is the game for you. It was built with newcomers in mind, so it has a great mix of combat, exploration, and puzzle solving, so you can focus on doing what you want to do in the game, and I would recommend bumping it up to the hard difficulty because the combat actually gets pretty challenging. There are multiple different worlds to explore, all based on the different elements like fire, wind, water, and earth, and they're all extremely colorful, vibrant, and deep, and fun to explore, most importantly. You'll explore this world with a cute companion called Piggy, and he's got great abilities that allow you to travel between realms and also do super jumps and other crazy moves. There's a full skill tree so you can focus on what aspects of combat you like the most, and combat definitely keeps you on your toes in this game. You have to strategize between melee, ranged, and elemental combat based on what enemy you're fighting at any given time. I like the puzzle design too because it's a good middle ground between being way too hard so you're spending forever on one puzzle and being so trivially easy that you're questioning why it's even there in the first place. But my favorite aspect of any game like this is exploration, and I like that it rewards you for going off the beaten path with new armor, weapons, and other items that are essential to your journey. If you'd like to check the game out for yourself on PlayStation 5, the link is down in the description. Once again, huge shout out to Kaku Ancient Seal for sponsoring this video. So yeah, let's just jump into the first news story here. Sony is in a little bit of a difficult spot right now. They've priced the PS5 so high that people are kind of scaling back and not going out and buying it, and then they also aren't really encouraging people as good as they should be to actually upgrade because they keep releasing games for the PlayStation 4. They've kind of moved on from that practice, you know, releasing PS4 games in addition to PS5 games, but other developers are still hanging on to the last generation console as long as they possibly can. Even one of my favorite games that I've played recently, Dying Light the Beast, that still has a PS4 version, and I haven't looked at gameplay or anything, but after seeing how good that game looks and surprisingly how well it runs on the PlayStation 5, I can't imagine it's all that great of an experience on the PlayStation 4. So Sony, instead of doing sales that bring the PS5 down to the old price or maybe even a little lower, or packing in some new games like maybe even 2 or 3 games, the new scheme they've came up with gives you something you're gonna have to buy for the PlayStation 5 anyway if you want to play online, and that's PlayStation Plus. So if you buy a PS5 system from Sony Direct, you know, their store that they have set up, which honestly is a great source to buy games or accessories or consoles from because they ship so damn quickly, you'll get 3 months of PS Plus Premium included with your purchase of the PlayStation 5. And like I mentioned, I'm always consistently impressed with how fast they turn around shipping times. Like, they're better than Amazon at this point. There have been multiple experiences, whether it was buying my DualSense Spider-Man edition, my PS5 Pro, where it gave me an estimate of how long it was going to take to get my product, and before it even had time to upgrade the sort of notification that tells you when it's preparing to shipped with the tracking number, the item was already at my door. So they have some next level shipping going on over at PlayStation Direct, where I don't feel like it's that big of a deal that you have to buy it directly from Sony. And 3 months of PS Plus Premium adds up to a pretty decent amount of money. This is really only worth it if you're planning on interacting with PS Plus Premium. Now, there are good benefits, like you get all the PS Plus Essential games that come out every month for free. You get access to the PS Plus Extra library. You also get game streaming. You get PS Plus Classics. So there is a big pool of stuff that you get for it. But I personally would use that 3 months and then downgrade back to Extra or Essential when that 3 months is up, because in my opinion, at least, PS Plus Premium is not worth the price. They were on a good roll for a lot of this year, including the 2-hour game trials, and sometimes they even go up to 5 hours for stuff like Death Stranding 2. I bet we'll see one, if we haven't already, for Ghost of Yotei. So there are benefits that you could take advantage of in that 3-month time window. I just still think it's pretty dang expensive for what it's actually providing you. I mean, if you compare it to the $30 a month for Game Pass, I think it is now becoming a better deal thanks to Xbox Xbox, but I don't know. I think it's good that they're giving you money back technically with the 3-month subscription to their most expensive tier of PS Plus. I just personally don't feel like it's worth investing in at the current price it's at for what you're actually getting out of it. And I think this is a decent little scheme to get people to buy PlayStation 5s if there literally is no way for them to kind of figure out how to drop the price to at least back to where it was at launch. I feel like that price was extremely fair at launch because going into it, everyone kind of assumed it would come down over time and more people would kind of wait to invest in it later on because the PS4 was still being supported. But right now, you probably have a pretty sizable group of people who are willing to upgrade from the PS4 to the PS5, and then they see the price tag of the PS5 and they're like, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. The PS4 suddenly looks like it has a couple more years left in it because, so if Sony can figure out how to bring down the manufacturing cost of this thing, which apparently they're trying to do with all the hardware revisions we've gotten, I think that would be good overall for moving people from PS4 to PS5. And you know, they do have a lot of games on the horizon, like Intergalactic and Wolverine and Ghost of Yotei just came out, where if you don't have a PS5, those are some pretty good heavy hitter, you know, third-person open world action adventure games that Sony is infamous for making over and over again. I mean, they do it because it works and they're high quality games. So like, you've got a good stack of stuff coming. I just really want to see Sony throw people a bone. So I'm glad they're kind of going in that direction with this PS Plus premium inclusion. I'd just like to see more legwork into lowering the overall price of the console. But this is a good deal, I think, personally. Like, if you kind of downgrade your subscription from premium to extra or essential when the 3 months is up, you're technically saving money and you can interact with a lot of the features that PS Plus Premium has within that 3-month period. And once you downgrade, you probably won't feel like you're missing out on anything major. But that brings me to the second news story, which is an update on one we've covered multiple times over the past couple of weeks, which is we talked about the whole Magnus thing where the Xbox is going to be more expensive than the PlayStation 6 because it's going to be stronger, and it's going to be a lot more expensive than the PlayStation 6 because it's not really competing with the PS6 anymore. It's competing with Valve and everything they're doing with SteamOS, because instead of being a lockdown traditional console, you're going to get the evolution of the Xbox full screen experience. Then we talked about how both Kepler and Moore's Law is dead. Individually, we're talking about 2027 as the release date of the PlayStation 6. And the latest update we have there is Moore's Law is dead has seen documents from internally at Sony that basically say they're locking in early to mid 2027 as when the console is going to go into production. So 2027 by the end of the year is when we'll see the PlayStation 6. Now, this is a little weird because, I mean, I'm on record, a lot of people in the comments are on record, a lot of people on Twitter are on record saying it just feels a little too soon. It feels like the last 7 years totally flew by. Like, I started this channel pretty soon after the PS5 came out, and that really does feel like yesterday. But in that time, we've had a lot of games come out. We've had a lot of PS5 software updates. There's definitely been a dearth of games in the first party front, like that I'm not going to like cover for Sony on, but they are kind of righting the ship. And it's sort of bittersweet because we're getting PS5 games now, but it looks like they're just pushing them out the door to get everyone ready for the PlayStation 6. And honestly, I understand why people are upset about this because, you know, if you just bought a PlayStation 5 before the price increase, you're like, shoot, they're going to release a new console within the next 2 years. Did I waste my money? I don't think you are. I'll cover that in a second, but it's not like complaining about it is going to stop them from releasing the console anyway, right? Like, they've already got it designed. They're ready to throw it into production. They're going to make it whether people want to buy it or not. And I'm just going to give the same advice I gave the last time we talked about this. If you have a PlayStation 5 Pro, if you have a PlayStation 5, and especially if you're one of these people who recently got either of those consoles and you were fine with the performance you were getting out of the PlayStation 4 for the rest of the generation that you waited on, just do that again. I mean, Sony's going into this next generation planning on making sure the PS5 is supported probably about as long as the PS4 was supported, and they have an extra benefit of the PS5 had so many cross-generational games in the early half that it really hasn't been pushed to its full potential. So I think we're going to be just fine if you're one of those people who wants to keep the regular PS5 or PS5 Pro around. You're going to get at least 3 to 4 years, I would say, of solid use out of it. And then when you feel like you've gotten your fill, or they built up a backlog of regular PS6 games, maybe even start to have some games that aren't on PS5 anymore, then you can probably go feel good about upgrading. The reason I say probably is we don't know what the pricing situation is going to be. Like, it could launch at a fair price, and then as the generation goes on, the price could increase. We could see a repeat of this generation, but hopefully some of the moves that governments around the world are making to kind of combat the inflation of the past, like 6 years, actually come to fruition and make things a little bit cheaper than they've been, so that these companies don't have to keep increasing their price and we can get back to normal where prices decrease as the generation goes on. I see a lot of YouTube pundits, I see a lot of Twitter people saying that it's guaranteed we're going to see this as the new normal, where prices are going to come out and then just keep increasing as time goes on. But like when it comes to the economy and pricing on things, no one really knows anything, right? Like even the best economists in the world are like highly trained, they go to school, they're still just giving their opinion and reading data and giving an opinion. Things can change overnight, positively or negatively. I hope they change positively, because getting PS5s and PS6s now out there is essential for Sony, because they're fighting a big battle now. They're fighting Xbox and Valve, they're fighting Nintendo. They're trying to monopolize your time and make sure that you're spending whatever time you're playing gaming in the PlayStation ecosystem. And I mean, if they have really no ability to make sure that you spend time on PlayStation by giving you fair or at least really good prices, they got to provide good experiences. So making sure they support every console they want to support all at the same time is essential and important. I just like, it really bums me out how expensive gaming is getting. But if I'm being real, what I'm really excited about next generation is the PS6 handheld. Sony is clearly getting ready for it. I'll take what Moore's Law is dead Tom says as gospel, because he's seen documents. It's very clear that Sony is working on some sort of internal based handheld that's going to run up to PS5 games pretty dang well, and that's exciting. And honestly, I feel like that's coming after. So like PS6 in 2027, that handheld in 2028, because they got to wait for chips to get better. I've been playing around with the Xbox ROG Ally. The Z2 Extreme is a decent chip, but if you compare it to the one that it's upgrading from, the Z1 Extreme, the upgrade is so small that you barely notice it. Like it's maybe 2 to 3 FPS per game. I know everyone's taking their victory laps with playing Spider-Man 2 on it, but it's a good handheld. This just doesn't need to be the third iteration of one device in 2 years. So if Sony really wants PS5 level performance, they just got to wait for chips to get better and more efficient. So I feel like 2028 is the earliest we'll see that dockable handheld. And that's fine, because it looks like they are really getting ready for it, because they just put out an update for Demon's Souls, the remake launch title for the PlayStation 5 that takes advantage of the low power mode. It does dramatically drop the amount of wattage that the PS5 is using from something like 200 or more down to an even 100 watts of power, but there is a pretty hefty trade-off. It locks you at 30 FPS, the resolution is lower, the effects are turned down, but the game is still entirely playable on the PlayStation 5 in low power mode. Push Square did the math, and with the dramatic drop off in power, it really only converts to around $1 per month that you're going to be saving in power bill usage. So they can say it's to save the environment and save people money on power all they want, but I really think the reason that they're using this low power mode and introducing it into their first party games is just to test how low they have to take PS5 games settings to get them to run well on a handheld, because 100 watts is low for a console that's plugged into your wall, but that's extremely high for a handheld. Most handhelds want to comfortably sit at the max of like 25 watts so that the battery doesn't last like 20 minutes when you're playing a heavy demanding game. So they need to basically cut it down by 3/4 to get it to the level where they need it to play with a handheld. So that's why I think we're going to be waiting a little bit longer, because as chips get better and more efficient, they can use less power to get the same graphics they got years ago. So it's really just a waiting game for Sony, us, and everyone else to make sure that you can actually get decent performance out of whatever chip goes into this handheld. There are a lot of reasons to be excited for it though. The one I mention all the time is that unlike previous handhelds like the PSP, the 3DS, the Nintendo DS, and the Vita, this is the first generation of a Sony handheld that is like only focused on playing the games that are already in your digital library. So from a backwards compatibility perspective, from a save transferring perspective, from getting your money's worth out of PS Plus perspective, because you'll be able to play multiplayer games on this thing for sure. It's a really good sort of decisive move by Sony to just give you another PlayStation 6 console for people who like the experience of the Nintendo Switch 2, where you can dock it or take it on the go. It's going to be made to not only exist as an add-on for the PlayStation 6, but also be something that people can get instead of the PlayStation 6 and still get a good gaming experience. And if you don't like streaming PlayStation 6 games from the internet or a console that you already have, you'll then probably want to upgrade to the PlayStation 6 and have both consoles in your living room kind of playing the same games and have different experiences experiences across both devices, but they'll play the same games. That's the whole point. It's just crazy that Xbox can't find a foothold in this industry. They move out of the console business to make desktop PCs to fight Valve, and then Sony's going to enter the handheld ring. Xbox is eventually going to make their own homegrown handheld, and then suddenly you not only have the ROG Ally, the Legion Go, the Steam Deck, the Nintendo Switch 2, the Xbox handheld, and the PlayStation handheld all together, but there might be a Steam Deck 2 by then, and there's just going to be an incredibly crowded ecosystem space for all these different gaming handhelds, and the value proposition is going to be exactly the same for Xbox. If you like interacting with Game Pass, you can buy their handheld. If you want to play games that you spent the last 10 to 15 years buying digitally on the PS3, 4, and 5, you're going to go for the PS handheld. And if you want to move on to PC, you're going to go for the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck 2, most likely the Steam Deck 2. So like, it just really feels like a forward-looking lateral move, if you like, from my perspective, but who knows how things are going to shake out. But I am very excited about the potential PS6 handheld, but I am very excited about this PS6 handheld. I have really missed Sony being in the handheld space, because from a pure hardware quality standpoint, they have always been the best in the game. Like, they have rock solid, great devices. The first Vita was immaculate with that OLED screen that was so forward thinking. And while, yeah, $250 was a little expensive at the time, I'm still glad I invested so heavily in that platform, because it just had so many great games, and it was such a great form factor. Even going back to the PSP era, to use the second joystick as the face buttons in something like Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, some of the best gaming experiences I ever had. But anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.